When people talk about Square Enix and JRPGs, the conversation almost always starts and ends with Final Fantasy. And to be fair, there's a really good reason for that. It's one of the most influential series in gaming history, responsible for countless innovations in narrative structure, visual design, and combat systems. But it's far from the only thing that Square Enix has to offer. Over the past 3 decades, Square Enix has assembled one of the most varied and fascinating JRPG libraries in the entire genre. Games that challenge the very definition of what a role playing game can be. Whether it's reinventing traditional turn based combat, blending action and philosophy, or creating visual styles no one else dares to touch, these titles show that Square Enix is more than just the house that Final Fantasy built. So in this video, I want to highlight 10 of the best Square Enix JRPGs that aren't Final Fantasy, because let's be honest, if we were to include Final Fantasy here, we'd have a ton of entries from the series, and I wouldn't be able to highlight some of the other great games that Square has put out over the years. So with all that said, let's jump right into it. Octopath Traveler 2 refines and deepens the formula of its predecessor in almost every aspect. It gives 8 distinct protagonists, each with a personal storyline that runs a good 10 or more hours each, and it's woven together in intersecting themes. The writing respects the player's intelligence, rarely spelling out motives or moral choices. Instead, you observe behavior and draw conclusions, which I personally love. I think in JRPGs sometimes things are too spelt out for you, so I like it when we are left to draw our own conclusions from what's happening. Combat is where this game truly shines, though. The boost system allows for stacking damage or skipping turns to build momentum. Turn economy becomes central. Bosses demand that you analyze their patterns, manipulate elemental weaknesses, and time your breaks and weaknesses to land perfect turns. There's no arbitrary difficulty spike. Everything scales with intention, letting you feel when your party optimization pays off. Visually, the HD 2D engine is still breathtaking. 3D environments layered under pixel art characters now include smoother camera movements, refined lighting, and animated effects like sparkling water or drifting fog. The result feels alive and modern without losing its more fairy tale charm. Furthermore, the game ties its systems into its worlds. In one region, your survival in a frozen tundra forces you to manage warmth. In another, dense fog mutes visibility, necessitating light-based exploration. These mechanics never feel tacked on. They serve as atmospheric reinforcement. If I have one critique, it's pacing between different story arcs. Some early protagonists feel loosely tied together until later in the game, and that's most likely because you can tackle things in any order you like. But that structural challenge does little to dim the enjoyment of deep class customization, memorable set-piece battles, and a living world that rewards curiosity. Octopath Traveler 2 isn't just a sequel, it's a statement on how narrative structure and gameplay come together to make something truly special. Bravely Default is far more than a throwback to early 2000s JRPGs. It's an expansion of that era's design philosophy. It centers on 4 protagonists, each with their own motivations for seeing the journey through to the end. The narrative is pretty straightforward, but the characters I really connected with. The cornerstone feature, though, the Brave Default combat system. It transforms turn-based encounters to gameplay puzzles. You can bank turns to create supercharged attacks or trigger multi-action chains, but risk is present here. If you overextend, you might lose turns. This encourages thoughtful planning against every encounter, especially boss fights, where proper use of this system is key to your success. Now, I can't talk about Bravely Default without mentioning the job system. It's elegantly built and honestly one of the best of all time. Every character can access over 20 jobs, from apprentice to sage, and can equip their secondary job almost immediately. The depth emerges from combinations. Say you have a melee fighter with white mage spells and support buffs. These hybrids become central in boss battles and optional content later in the game. Strategic builds feel really deliberate and not chaotic, and the customization is insane. You can really go crazy and create some truly unique builds. World design and side content further cement Bravely Default's strengths. Things may even change as you progress through the game. Locations reflect the narrative progress, and the soundtrack changes subtly. Light melodies and calm plazas to crazy, intense boss themes. Bravely Default refuses to dumb itself down. Tutorials ease you in, but complexity takes over quite quickly. Optional challenges and post-game content dig deeper into job mastery and unique builds. It's not just built on nostalgia for nostalgia's sake, it's reflective iteration on classic JRPGs with systems that feel rewarding from first turn to final boss. And while this game isn't truly considered a Final Fantasy game, for those of you looking for the classic Final Fantasy formula, this is it. The story feels Final Fantasy, the character building, the world lore, and the combat system all feel like classic Final Fantasy. So if that's what you're looking for, this is the one for you. The remake of Star Ocean The Second Story isn't just a polished remaster, it's a carefully rebalanced journey through a sci fi fantasy story. While the original was a cult favorite, this remake overhauls dialogue, adds new story beats, and deepens its dual protagonist structure following Claude and Reyna. Combat is action oriented, but it's a bit more strategic. Real time input is layered with pause and command, skill chains, and combo systems, making movement feel kinetic while rewarding thought and precision. Instead of button mashing, you position party members to support physical attacks, magic channels, or buffing tactics. Crafting and skill growth tied directly into exploration. Saving an NPC unlocks a resource path. Mastering an artifact reflects region specific ingenuity. When the system works cohesively, Star Ocean The Second Story R feels like a true remake rather than a port of an old game. The world itself is quite expansive. You visit colonized planets, remote villages, and neon lit futuristic hubs. NPCs have ambient behaviors and world context. Villagers reference recent events, factions shift allegiances, and some encounters only appear after narrative progression. The trace system flags story critical battles or side content, preventing early escalation but encouraging more natural discovery. What holds everything together is the thematic balancing of the characters. Claude's laid back charm hides a deeper ambiguity, while Reyna's connection to nature and justice grounds the more dramatic sci fi arcs. Relationship events anchor both narrative and mechanics, bonding unlocks powerful skills, and it all comes together making something truly special. Overall, Star Ocean The Second Story R is a fine tuned remake, not just visually enhanced, but completely overhauled in so many great ways. Fantasia Neo Dimension is next up, and it does something really unique with its art style, weaving tactile diorama aesthetics into a turn based RPG that is honestly near impossible to put down. The sense of physicality is shocking. Environments feel handmade, and in all honesty, they kind of were. When you move through a wrecked train tunnel or bustling night market, the world's texture becomes layered, and it really is like nothing I've ever seen before. The combat system is really great and thoughtful, but the dimension system is where this game truly shines. This mechanic introduces the ability to save up random encounters and stack them until you burst into a huge encounter that will yield massive XP. This completely changes the way you grind and level up, and I love it. I think more games should adopt this because it really allows you to experience the game however you want. Puzzle elements fill dungeons, and they're a ton of fun, not overly complex, but enough to shake up the gameplay. I really like how everything is set up to move the story forward in some way, shape, or form. Character relationships are also amazing. The scenes feel earned. Late night rooftop talks, or a quiet exchange in a studio, or even a back and forth in the biggest moments, everything reinforces world building and character development in a meaningful way. This game was originally a mobile game, and because of that, it took until it came to consoles for me to play it, but I'm really glad I gave it a shot because I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. It can be super challenging at times, and that final act is very tough to get through, but the game is an incredible throwback to the PS1 era of JRPGs that many of us grew up with. The Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake is one of the best looking games I've ever played. The beautifully rendered HD 2D visuals are intentionally crafted to preserve the classic's charm while deepening environmental story immersion. Village markets bustle, torches flicker in dungeons, and lighting shifts as the sun sets. It's truly incredible. Combat retains the classic turn based rhythm, but the UI and pacing have been finely tuned. Text scrolls faster, inventories sort intelligently, and battle animations respect your time. That polish matters when early hours are about experimentation and figuring out the playstyle that fits you best. Job systems remain a cornerstone here. Starting as a hero, you can unlock different classes, each full of potential, and just experimenting with everything is so much fun. World building shines with context. NPCs share rumors, and quests are integrated into the world and story instead of just being busy work. Villagers reference certain instances, changes to your traveling companions can affect people's reactions, and the world just feels so connected. The difficulty curve is definitely modernized. Optional boss tiers can be tackled for extra loot and equipment, while main story fights scale predictably. Don't get me wrong, this game can still be quite challenging at times and will require quite a bit of grinding, but the pacing between exploration and challenge is balanced enough to keep you moving. There's even an easy mode that will keep you alive and kicking, even in the most difficult battles. So with all that, you get a version of Dragon Quest III that's easier to approach for newcomers, but definitely satisfies series veterans. I haven't talked a ton about Kingdom Hearts on my channel because while I love them, it's been forever since I've played many of them, but I can't have a list like this without mentioning one of my all-time favorite games, Kingdom Hearts 2. This game is often cited as the high watermark for Disney and Square Enix's crossover, and for good reason. It keeps the momentum of the original, extends it to complacency, and then flips it with maturity, complexity, and a lot of character growth. I also found this was the last entry before the story went completely off the rails into a place that most of us can't even begin to comprehend. Plot-wise, Kingdom Hearts 2 balances familiarity and escalation. Sora returns after a long absence, only to plunge back into Organization 13's dangerous web. Each world represents a self-contained challenge that builds the story and characters in amazing ways. Combat is fast and multifaceted. Drive forms introduce mechanics that transform Sora's movement and combos. Paired with reaction commands and magic efficiencies, every encounter encourages situational responsiveness. Battles feel kinetic, not because they happen fast, but because timing, counterflight, and spatial awareness definitely matter. It's real-time action that rewards reflexes and system knowledge equally. Presence matters too. Worlds are densely packed with fans of their respective franchises. NPC schedules reflect mission progress. Guards patrol differently at night in some places. The Disney stories take beats from the movies. For example, Aladdin chases rumors only once you've helped the Cave of Wonders. Plot twists are great here as well. I won't spoil anything, but just know that this game will keep you on the edge of your seat for most of your playthrough. I love Kingdom Hearts 2 for everything it does. The nostalgia, the story and characters, the care and thought put into creating a crossover that is truly unique and special in every way. Even after a decade, Dragon Quest XI-S stands as one of Square Enix's best JRPGs. It holds true to the classic JRPG formula of turn-based adventure, but modernizes in ways I didn't even think were possible. This game doesn't feel dated in any way, shape, or form, and feels just as innovative as anything releasing today. The story explores some dark themes at times, but stays lighthearted for the most part. At first glance, the story might seem a little standard when it comes to JRPGs, but look a little deeper and you'll find something a bit more complex. Each companion arc is unlocked throughout the story, and their motivations are sincere. Eric's survival guilt, Jade's legacy, Rab's redemption. The main narrative binds them together without overshadowing anyone in particular, and this creates emotional payoffs through well-paced character moments. Gameplay remains accessible but deep. Facing a powerful enemy, you can process support spells, defensive lines, or environmental buffs. Strategies feel layered, not because they're convoluted, but because the game gives you tools to build around narrative context. World design is brilliant. NPCs engage with you based on story events. The world is alive with changes to the world as the story progresses. Markets change, rumors shift, enemy patrols surface. That emergent texture transforms a static world into an evolving one. The S version allows you to play the entire game in a 2D mode, and for all of us Dragon Quest fans out there that want to experience the game this way, this truly is incredible that they achieved this, and I can only imagine the amount of work that went into making this happen. Dragon Quest XI-S is an example of traditional JRPG structure meeting modern expectations. Narrative depth, mechanical polish, and world immersion wrapped into a journey that satisfies in just about every way. Tactics Ogre Reborn revisits a tactical RPG powerhouse with fidelity and refinement. Its story remains one of the genre's most intricate narratives, and Reborn enhances all of this with updated visuals, and it looks amazing. Every choice matters. Characters you recruit from lasting bonds or rivalries with other party members make the wrong decisions and things can get really bad. Your choices are important and consequences remain persistent. Yes, a character can die permanently, and that can really affect how your game progresses. Tactical systems are evolved. Skills offer a great sense of progression. Weapon mastery yields specialized abilities. Terrain matters. Cover, elevation, area control. Permadeath means real consequences, and it can alter story paths. The game's highest difficulty remixes map layouts and enemy placement, pushing veterans to redesign how they set up their party and strategy. World building works through optional events and recruit chains. Saving a refugee unlocks future quest nodes, for example. There's no environmental filler here. Each optional battle carries weight, either narratively or mechanically. The completeness is baked in. No side quests feel tacked on or arbitrary. Emotionally, the narrative remains strong. Loyalties shift in replayed scenarios. If you betray one leader for another, dialogue changes in town hubs. It's really interesting all the attention to detail that clearly went into building this world. Tactics Ogre Reborn is one of the few tactical JRPGs that reaches the highs it reaches. This is one of the best all-time tactics games out there, and if you haven't played it, then Reborn is definitely the way to go. Nier Automata is a genre-bending masterpiece and one of my favorite action RPGs out there. It opens with a simple premise, android soldiers clearing alien robot invaders, but quickly deepens into recursion of narrative structure, requiring multiple playthroughs to access its complete story. Mechanically, the game defies expectations. It shifts between third-person melee combat, shoot-'em-up bullet hell scenarios, and top-down navigation with sustained smoothness. Combat feels visceral. Android speed, weapon impacts, parry timing, pod system augmenting actions, every engagement feels so natural. The narrative is structured across 5 playthrough arcs, each revealing brand new perspectives. The final arc reframes everything. Choice becomes a mechanic and a metaphor to the overall story. Its storytelling is absolutely bonkers. It really is crazy, and once you get drawn in, once it grabs you, you won't be able to put this down. Its soundtrack elevates every scene, from swelling orchestral moments in battle to piano riffs when recovering memory logs. Voice work here is also incredible. Nier Automata is powerful, not because it's an action game with a story, but because its systems, combat, narrative, music, they all come together and feed off each other in ways I never would have expected. Chrono Trigger ascends beyond its era through elegant design, time travel narrative, and integrated systems that still shine this year in 2025. The story opens in a medieval fair and quickly escalates into time-spanning consequences. Every world feels lived in. Prehistoric wilderness, steampunk future, post-apocalyptic ruin. The game introduced a tech system as well, character combos that feel dynamic and motivated by relationships. It's really cool today, but especially for the time, it felt mind-blowing. The combat mechanics in this game were truly something special, and it's a big reason why so many games use this today as inspiration. Optional endings were a game-changing move as well. It invites you to replay, explore, and discover changes in the story and writing. Mechanically, enemies are visible on the field, no random encounters here. You can see and avoid monsters. That illusion of control adds to the immersion, not just convenience. And the fast-paced battle transitions mean you're never bored treading through the game. The soundtrack and art style remain timeless. I personally would love an HD 2D remake of this one. I think it would just do so insanely well. Does it still hold up today? Absolutely, but imagine a ground-up remake of Chrono Trigger. I would lose my mind. Chrono Trigger isn't just history, it's a blueprint, a compact marriage of mechanics, story, character, world building, and systems that changed an entire genre. This is a truly special game and one of my all-time favorites. Square Enix is a company with an incredible legacy. For every breakout hit, there's a cult classic that never found its audience. But that's also what makes their catalog so rewarding. There's variety, there's risk, and more importantly, there's a willingness to build games that are mechanically rich, emotionally resonant, and deeply personal, even if they don't fit neatly into a franchise box. These 10 games each represent a different facet of what makes Square Enix unique. Some lean on nostalgia, others push boundaries, a few of them do both at the same time, but what they all share is intention. They weren't just made to fill a release schedule, they were made because someone believed in them. And honestly, in an era where so many big budget games feel interchangeable, that really matters. If you haven't played some of these titles on this list, I hope this video gave you reason to seek them out, and if you have, maybe it reminded you why they stuck with you in the first place. Anyway, that's it for me in this one. If you enjoyed the video, then please hit the like button and subscribe for more JRPG content like this. It really helps out the channel. Also, leave a comment below and let me know what your favorite Square Enix games are. I'd love to read all your thoughts, and until next time, I'm out.